Okay, in this video, we're going to be looking at how to succeed on the exams. The exams are always located in the sidebar menu. You could also find them in the units folders, but it's pretty easy just to go right here. Click away. First thing you want to be aware of with any exam that you're going to take in this course is that you must download the Lockdown browser. So if you haven't downloaded the Lockdown browser, do so now. The Lockdown browser is located, the software for the Lockdown browser is located down here. And if you're not familiar with what the Lockdown browser is, it is a browser like any other browser, like Chrome or Internet Explorer, or Mozilla, that you use to take exams. So you'll open up the Lockdown browser. Once it's downloaded onto your desktop, you will log into Blackboard, and then you will go to take the exam. So if you're going to take exam 1, you go right here. And if you are not in the Lockdown browser, it's going to ask you for a password. Take note of this. You will not be able to get in, right? If you are in the Lockdown browser and you try to take an exam, it is also going to ask you for a password. As long as you are in Lockdown browser, ignore the request for the password. So you'll take the exam. The exams basically will ask you to respond to a certain amount of identifications and a certain amount of essays, depending on which exam you're taking. So take a look at how each one is structured. As you take each exam throughout the semester, it will ask you to respond to previous essays and identifications from the previous units. So how do you succeed on these? Let's go to the course website. Now you can navigate through the lectures by going through the units. I just basically have these things here just in case something goes wrong with the course website. I highly recommend navigating through the content using the course website. It's a little bit easier to get through, especially on a mobile device like a phone or an iPad. So open up the course website. Let's go to Unit 1. If you're in a U.S. History 2 course, it works the same way. I'm going to use a U.S. History 1 course, but let's open up the first lecture here. Every single lecture, or almost every lecture, comes with an essay prompt, right? So this is the essay prompt. You are to write a 5 to 8 paragraph essay. A paragraph, take note of this, is generally 5 to 6 sentences, right? So if you're wondering how much a paragraph is, that's how much a paragraph is. So this will come out to maybe no more than 3 pages, but try to keep it under 2. This is the essay prompt here. This is what's going to appear if you're in your exam for you to respond to if this particular lecture is randomly selected. How do you prepare for this essay prompt? By going through each learning objective. Take note of this. This is, for some reason, confusing to students, but it doesn't have to be if you just simply follow the direction here that I'm about to give you. The learning objectives are the outline to the essay prompt. The learning objectives are the outlines for the essay prompt. Let's say that together. The learning objectives are the outline to the essay prompt. What does that mean exactly? That means that once you respond to the available learning objectives, to all of the available learning objectives for this lecture and any lecture, you will have the introduction, the body, and the conclusion to your essay, right? And if you look at the learning objectives closely, they're just a breakdown of the essay question. So you click reading and listen to the lecture and respond to the learning objective. Each learning objective will constitute a paragraph to no more than 3 paragraphs apiece, usually 1 to 2 paragraphs, but sometimes it'll get up to 2 paragraphs. What I highly suggest doing to succeed on these exams in your preparation is to have a set schedule throughout the week of at least 6 to 8 hours at least to 12 hours at the most a week, right? Dedicated to this course. What I suggest doing is getting yourself a spiral notebook and organizing it by lecture essays, right? The first one, The Age of Expansion and Conquest. Physically write down the essay prompt so you know what it is that you are fully responding to. Underneath that, you want to write the learning objective. Physically write that down. If you do this for each learning objective, the learning objectives, the learning objectives will prompt you to know what to look for as you're going through the material. If you just simply click play here and just take notes without really paying close attention to what this sentence is asking you to do, it's likely that you're going to get lost really quick. But if you orient yourself by anchoring down your focus in writing down the learning objective, you won't have as much of an issue of understanding the content here. After you're done viewing each learning objective, this one has 3, some of them are going to have 4, some of them are going to have 5, some are going to have up to 6 learning objectives. Once you're done, immediately try to practice writing the essay. Would be a good idea, right? What I also suggest doing too is coming back to the material. So if you come back to this material a day later, you're going to find that you're going to become a little bit more familiar with the topic. What happens is, quite simply, is when you sleep, this is why it's best to come back to it a day or 2 days later. When you sleep, the dream process, what's happening when you dream practically is your mind is organizing the events of the day, right? It's basically organizing your memories, and so it creates connections. And so if you give yourself a day and come back to the material, you'll begin to have those aha moments. Okay, now I get it, kind of a thing. So highly suggest having a schedule, sticking to that schedule, and going back to previous lectures that you viewed before. So in your session, what I would always do is start with a new lecture that you haven't seen before, and then when you're done with that, after taking notes on that new lecture, let's bring this up. Right, all of these lectures here, let's say on Monday you went through The Age of Expansion and Conquest. Now Wednesday comes along, go through the entire the developments of slavery in Virginia. Go through that entire lecture, take notes based on the learning objectives, and then when you're done, go back to this lecture and review it. If you do that, you're going to find yourself becoming more familiar with it. Hold on one second, let me show you something real quick. So after you've viewed the lectures at least twice and become familiar with it, you've got your body of notes, you've done your best to respond to the learning objectives. Try not to get anxious if you still don't get it. You might get it, but it's common for students to say, okay, I viewed the lectures once or twice and I still don't get it. That's normal, right? You're not familiar with this material in many cases, and so it takes a while for someone to get familiar. To get familiar to the extent where you can do real well on the exams, you have to understand little tricks to study with. And here's a trick I'm going to show you that will help you get really familiar with this topics if you actually go through the process and stick to it. Once you've gone through the material twice and you've got your body of notes, get yourself some of these. These are index cards. So get yourself some of these And what I would suggest doing is for each lecture, each essay lecture, so again, essay lecture is going to be located right here in this column for each unit. So Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4 right there, right? And Unit 5, right? These two right there. So for each one of those, there's going to be learning objectives. And again, what are learning objectives? Let's say it all together. Right, the outline to the essay prompt, right, is the outline of the essay. So here's what I suggest doing with these. On one side, write down the learning objective. On the other side, write down some brief bullet points that will help you identify exactly how to respond to that particular learning objective. You don't want to write too much because you're going to use these as flashcards, right? So for this particular lecture essay, we've got 4 learning objectives. So you want to have 4 index cards. You fill them all out. Once you're done, you get yourself a paper clip and you clip it like that. You do this for each lecture as you're going, and just keep these handy in your bag, your purse, right, whatever it is, your back pocket. And as you're going through the day, drill yourself with these particular index cards and get familiar with it. And this will help you become familiar with it. It would also help identify those parts of the lecture that you might be struggling with. Instead of having to go back through the whole thing, if you go through 4 learning objectives and you got learning objective 1, learning objective 2, you're still a little bit shaky on. 3, every time you drill yourself, you have a good understanding of it. 4, same thing, you've got that one. So now you know every time you drill yourself, learning objective 2, you're still not sure about. So instead of having to go back through the whole entire lecture, you know, okay, I just really need to go back to learning objective 2 before the exam and thoroughly go through that one. Right? It'll save yourself some time in the end, right? It seems like this might take a lot of time. Going through all of the content before an exam is going to take a lot longer. I promise you that. And do remember, each exam that happens, if you go to Blackboard and really read the descriptions, right? So we get to exam 2. 2 essay prompts will be randomly selected from Unit 2 for the student to respond to, right? So, and then 1 essay prompt will be randomly selected from Unit 1 for the student to respond to. So you will always be prompted to go back, right? So you want to make sure that you've got the stuff easily accessible, so you're not always having to go back to the material. Let's see, I think that's about it. Remember to get Lockdown Browser on your computer if you haven't done that already. If you have any problems, I can't really help you with technical problems, but the number you want to call is 872-2598. That's 872-2598. Put that in your cell phone right now. That's Distance Education Hotline. They'll be able to help you if you're having problems downloading the Lockdown Browser. I do suggest, if at all possible, to take the exams on one of our campuses. That way, if you do have problems, there's somebody close by who can help you. And if your computer is acting up, you could always go to the next computer over, that kind of a thing. So anyway, do email me if you have any questions. I'll talk to you later. Bye.